Hello, my name is Lauren and welcome to the Theoretical YouTube channel. Did you see Soul? Because I saw Soul and I must say, it was pretty unrealistic. I've been in my fair share of middle school band practices, and believe me, no one plays as well as Connie. I doubt her arms are even long enough to reach 7th position yet. But regardless of how Pixar chose to depict this crucial element of the film, wow, Soul was really good. But obviously, being me, I can't just enjoy one of the first new movies I've seen in the last 9 months. No, I had to analyze it for potential theories, looking for questions that might need answers or other ways Soul fits into pre-existing Pixar lore. And as anyone who has already read the title for this video knows, I came away with at least one burning question. Who is Soul number 22? I mean, besides a blue blob voiced by Tina Fey. Obviously, I know who the character Soul 22 was in this movie. What my real question is if souls like 22 leave the great before and enter bodies down on Earth, does that mean that there is an existing Pixar character with the soul number 22 that we have been following throughout this movie? So maybe I should have titled this video Who Has Soul 22, but regardless of semantics, I think I have an answer. Okay, so first off, we have to figure out who's even in contention to have received soul number 22 when they were born. And if you're confused, I'll clarify. According to Soul, when a new person is born, they receive a soul from the great before, who parachutes down like we see in the film. These souls already have a predetermined personality, or at least 6 parts of one. One segment of this personality is their spark, or reason for living. Not a purpose for living, but at least a indicator that they're ready to start a life on Earth. And even though newborn babies receive souls that are already pretty developed, maybe even for thousands of years, they still grow up like a normal person. No one's walking around like a 2-month-old philosopher just because soul number 2319 found a copy of the Socratic dialogues in the Hall of Everything. Babies are just babies. And one baby in the Pixar universe has
soul number 22. Oh, we're gonna get into this now.
Spoilers for Soul. Should have mentioned that in the introduction. Sorry about that. But maybe I lose a little respect for you as a Pixar fan if you still haven't seen the movie by now. I mean, come on. It's been like 2 weeks. Anyway, at the end of the film, we see 22 parachute down to Earth, presumably to be born in the body of a child. And today, we're gonna discuss which one, by narrowing down our selection pool bit by bit. So let's begin. First of all, even though Soul 22 is voiced by Tina Fey in Soul, that doesn't mean that we're exclusively looking at female Pixar characters. Like they themselves said in the movie, they could sound like anyone. They're only using the voice of a middle-aged white woman to annoy people. So that's not really helpful when it comes to trying to figure out what body Soul 22 ends up possessing. What is helpful is the time frame here. Because of their multiple trips between Earth and the Great Before, I'd say that we can assume time works approximately linearly in this movie. Maybe even despite what 22 believes. We know for sure that 22 has had mentors for thousands of years and probably in the order in which they died on Earth.
22 has been at the U Seminar for quite some time and has had such notable mentors as Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, and Mother Teresa.
I made her cry!
Ignore that.
And that time passes pretty similarly for the Jerrys in the Great Before as it does for Joe and 22 when they're on Earth. Especially because Joe makes it back to Earth in time for his gig with Dorothea Williams. Again, I did say spoilers. Not to mention the fact that the souls are even numbered in the first place. The number 22 is only significant because it means that 22 has been failing to find a spark for thousands and thousands of years. So therefore, the body that 22 will eventually occupy has to live around the same time period as Soul takes place. And at a quick glance, we see cell phones and barbershops and cars and subways and a fairly modern looking New York City. So Soul probably takes place in modern-ish current times, which obviously rules out any characters from Pixar films like The Good Dinosaur and Brave. But also ones from movies like Monsters, Inc. and Cars, since these films are widely accepted as taking place in the future of the Pixar timeline. Looking at the Pixar catalog and roughly guessing when each film takes place, I think that our only contenders are characters from the Toy Story movies Finding Nemo, Ratatouille, Up, Coco, and Inside Out. And before you ask, The Incredibles takes place in the 60s, which is way too early to coincide with Soul. Similarly, WALL-E seems like it is much further along in terms of technology, and therefore it's out too. As for Toy Story, I don't think 22 is inside any of the toys. Maybe they have souls, but they're also immortal, and it's different in terms of what brings them to life, so I think it's safe to say that it just works different from what's in this movie. What's harder to rule out is animals. After all, Joe's soul ends up in the body of a cat during the plot of Soul. We even see that that cat, in fact, had a soul who might be in the great beyond? I have two thoughts here. The movie Soul seems to be very concerned with the human condition, what it means to connect to humanity and that spark of life. And the soul of the cat we see looks like a cat. Maybe souls that eventually go into animals' bodies morph to look like those animals after they're already in a body. But I think they'd start to change shape earlier in their development. 22 already has 5 sections filled up on their patch. If they were destined to be in the body of a cat, I think we should know that already. So unless 22 is Darla... Twinkle, twinkle, little... No. Finding Nemo's out too. And so are the rats in Ratatouille, like Remy and Emile. But I think we can exclude Remy for another reason altogether. He really has a deep passion for food and cooking. And we know for a fact that whoever does get Soul 22 doesn't have these sort of niche interests and hobbies. Otherwise, that would have been their spark. That's the actual plot of Soul, trying to find something that 22 would appreciate, like Joe loves music, or Remy loves cooking. So, now we can eliminate any Pixar character with a profound hobby. Which means that Hector and Miguel are out from Coco, because I just don't think that two characters with such passion would have a soul that once said, music just doesn't do it for them. I think this also keeps Russell from Up out of contention too. You could say he has a passion for helping people, and I really don't see 22 developing that island of personality. Carl and Ellie themselves are simply too old to be in the running. Their births just came way before the events of Soul. Which is an absolute shame, because if 22's eventual spark was just a passion for being alive, I don't think you could find a better match than Ellie. Take it! But alas, there's no connection there either. Which only leaves me with a handful of options left. The human characters in Toy Story, Ratatouille, and Inside Out. And first to be knocked off in this semi-final round, Colette just has too much of a passion for cooking.
Keep your station clear or I will kill you!
And I really don't think that Ratatouille takes place after Soul, so Linguini's out too. Toy Story might, but I don't know, Andy, Bonnie, Molly, Sid. maybe Sid. I don't know, I just don't see any evidence that 22 is inside any of these characters. And before you think that I'm building up to some big declaration that 22 is actually Riley, that timeline doesn't work out either. You see, there's an ad on the subway for a company called Brang, which is the name of the company Riley's dad moves from Minnesota to San Francisco to help get off the ground. So if a California tech company has enough money to advertise in New York, they've probably been around for a few years. And certainly not from before Riley was born. So 22 cannot be Riley. Also, she likes hockey too much. So who is 22? Well, this is where we get a little tricky. Because Monsters, Inc. might actually be a contender when it comes to the particular character by the name of Boo. Or Mary Gibbs if you want to flex on all your nerdy Pixar friends. Which I'm sure you have too. But because the doors at Monsters Incorporated open into a different point on the timeline, the past, Boo could technically be from anywhere we need her to be from. And this would be a really cool way to explain why her character is actually important enough to be the center of the Pixar theory. It has always bothered me that the Pixar theory hinges on Boo growing up to be a time-traveling witch, when there's actually nothing special about her. But, unfortunately, even though Soul and Monsters, Inc. are both directed by Pete Docter, I don't actually think Boo is 22. After all, like with Andy, there's just no other evidence to support the theory other than it would be cool. I looked all over Monsters, Inc. for pizza crusts and bagels and lollipops and Metro cards and spools of thread. You know, the stuff that 22 collects in Joe's pockets. But they just aren't there. They're nowhere in Pixar. Oh, okay, Jack gets a lollipop that one time. But once again, he's from the 60s. And I guess Riley likes pizza. And the Pizza Planet truck is actually all over the place. I'm getting sidetracked here. My point is, 22 really hasn't shown up in the Pixar universe so far. But what about the future? Will we ever encounter a Pixar character with the same spirit for living and eccentric collecting habits as Soul number 22? I'd say keep your eyes peeled over the next few years. But I will leave you with my own personal guess, because I do believe that we have been introduced to the body of Soul 22. And she will appear in the year 2022 as the main character May in the upcoming Pixar film Turning Red. And believe it or not, there is actually more evidence here than I found with any other character in the Pixar universe. For instance, while we don't exactly know where or when Turning Red will take place, we do know that it's being directed by Domi Shi, who directed the Pixar short Bao, the one that scarred us all for life. And that it's a coming-of-age story about a 13-year-old girl obsessed with boy bands and who turns into a giant red panda. Red pandas are found in East Asia. Boy bands can also be found in East Asia. The reason I bring this up is the last time we saw Soul 22, they were falling down to Earth to be reborn into a body, heading straight towards Asia. So in 2022, when we're all watching Turning Red, keep an eye out for lollipops and helicopters. Because maybe, just maybe, we're following the embodiment of Soul number 22, finally living out life to its fullest. Well, that was a weird theory. Either it's true, or it's a random guess. Either way, we won't know for the next couple of years. Anyway, if you like this video, give us a like and maybe a comment in these sections right down here. If you write something, I will read it. I may even like it. You don't know, you haven't even done it yet. And you can subscribe to our channel for more lovely Pixar content. I think there's a few videos on here that you might enjoy. Please follow us on Twitter at Theory_Central to formally declare that you are actually Soul number 22. Or support us on Patreon to actually become Soul 22. Results may vary. But that is everything that I can squeeze into today's theory. So thanks for watching. Hashtag May is 22, and I'll see you later.
H-E double hockey sticks?
Hell. Quiet
Coyote.